So I was just looking back at the scores for last week, and I think there were 12 one-score games, which I'm not really sure what that compares to other weeks, but that seems like a lot. Obviously, one of them being Vikings and Colts, greatest comeback of all time, at least, in points. And I saw a fantasy article that said, Colts Matt Ryan, another historic blown lead, which is a low blow for him. Obviously, 28-3 in the Super Bowl. I remember watching that game, and it was 33-0, and I just stopped keeping up with it. And then I turned it back on, and it's 36-21. And obviously, the Vikings, they did make that comeback. They did win the game. The Bills picked up a big win against the Dolphins on Sunday night. That was a good comeback. The Eagles barely beat the Bears, but with a cost, Jalen Hurts, with that sprained shoulder, not going to play this week against Dallas, so that's big. The Chiefs narrowly escaping against the Texans. The Cowboys cannot say the same for them. They lost to the Jags on a game-winning pick six this weekend, and the Giants-Commanders game was down to the final play or close to it, at least the final play that mattered. Brian Robinson obviously scoring the game-winning touchdown and then getting called back with the penalty, and the Giants won that game 20-12 in what could really be the difference between the Giants and the Commanders making the playoffs. But that's all I have from last week, and let's hop into the video. Starting it off on Thursday night, we have Jaguars at Jets. I'm not 100% sure this video is going to get up in time for that game, but if it does, then I'm going to take the Jags to beat New York. I think it is pretty chilly in New York, so it's going to be the tale of two run games. Really no different from the Jets, but the Jags, Trevor Lawrence may struggle in this game with that cold weather. Obviously, not much cold weather in Jacksonville. I still think they pick up the win. They've been showing a lot of promise. Zach Wilson has not in any sort of way. And if the Jags win this game, they're right back in that playoff conversation at 7-8. Moving on to Saturday, and this week's Saturday is kind of like Sunday because all the games are on Saturday except for 5 games, and only 3 are on Sunday, which is Christmas, obviously that being the reason. But Bills at Bears, there shouldn't be too much to talk about for this game. One of the worst teams in the league versus one of the best teams in the league. Give me the Bills at the Bears. Next game is Saints-Browns, and this is definitely going to be a tough one to predict. Both teams really up and down seasons, but I'm going to predict that the Browns get back on track here with the win. Deshaun Watson especially getting back on track, and really just because they're at home. They're favored by 3, so in a neutral arena, this is a toss-up, which I think is the case with this game, but give me the Browns. Next game is Texans-Titans, and this is interesting because they have the 7-7 Titans as 3-point favorites at home against the 1-12-1 Texans. Texans coming off a great game against the Chiefs, but I don't know if they deserve that much respect to be this close with the Titans. So give me the Titans here at home, but look for this to be a close game. Next game is Seahawks-Chiefs, and I saw Geno made the Pro Bowl. That is great for him, but despite the Chiefs' woes last week against the Texans, I don't think they're going to lose this one to the Seahawks. Chiefs still at 11-3, one of the best teams in the league. Both teams need the win. Only one's going to get it, and I think that's going to be the Chiefs. Vikings-Giants is the next game, and the Vikings are kind of turning into the Packers. That whole NFC North, with probably the exception of the Bears, very hard to predict. The Vikings, I was wondering, why are they a 10-3 team last week at halftime of that game? And now I know, because now they're 11-3 with a 33-point comeback on their resume. But Giants picked up a good win against the Commanders last week. I just feel like the Vikings are going to bring this game home. Justin Jefferson, I think he's going to have a huge game here against the Giants. And they've obviously shaky performances at home, including last week and the one to the Cowboys, but Give me them to get back on track and beat the Giants. Next game is Bengals at Patriots, and this one's going to be interesting because the Patriots, obviously with not much of a passing attack, I bet they throw the ball 15 times or less this game. It's going to be frigid in New England, and that's going to bode well for the Patriots. Their offense more centered around that run game versus the Bengals with Jamar Chase getting T. Higgins back. They are more of a throwing central offense, but I still think the Bengals are a better team. They're starting to heat up when it matters. So Joe Shiesty gets the win at the Patriots this weekend. Next game is Lions at Panthers, and as much as I want to pick the Panthers, I can't after last week. The Steelers really just dominated that whole game. Foreman had 10 carries for 9 yards, which is not going to cut it. They really beat us at our own game. Strong running game, strong defense, not really asking the quarterback to do much, but the Lions are, I believe, a way better team than the Steelers. So even though the Panthers are still 3-1 at home under Wilkes, give me the Lions at the Panthers. Next game is Falcons at Ravens, and Tyler Huntley has really not looked like I hope he would, but still, I would think enough to beat the Falcons at home. Desmond Ridder, pretty quiet first game last week. They lost to kind of an underwhelming Saints team, so I don't see really any reason they should win this game at the Ravens. Next game is Commanders 49ers, and I just got word from ESPN that Chase Young is going to be back for this game. He seems like he's been out for the last 3 years with, ACLs or whatever injuries he has. Good for him getting back. I don't think it's going to make a difference in this game. The Niners are on fire. They got McCaffrey in the first game, really only know the playbook for 3 days or something. They got blown out by the Chiefs. Since then, they've not lost with Christian McCaffrey, and he's really starting to mix well into that offense. Another comment I would like to make on the Niners is I believe they may have found their quarterback of the future, and it's not the number 3 overall pick, Trey Lance. It's not the guy who brought them to a Super Bowl in Jimmy Garoppolo, but I think it is Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy really getting the job done there. He's got another chance to prove himself, and I think that's exactly what he does. So give me the Niners over the Commanders. Next game is Eagles-Cowboys, and this is an interesting one because the Cowboys are, well, it's not looking great for them. They just beat the Texans on a game-winning last-second touchdown and then lost to the Jags the very next week, who, obviously, that doesn't look good on your record. But the Eagles losing their star quarterback, Jalen Hurts. So this is going to be an interesting game, but I just don't see the Cowboys beating. I said they could run the table a few videos back, and ever since that, they've just looked terrible. So even though they are at home, Eagles don't have Hurts. Their offense relies on that strong run game to open up for A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith in the pass, and I think Gardner Minshew can fit pretty well into that. Miles Sanders is going to have to take on a pretty big workload this week, but give me the Eagles to beat the slumping Cowboys. Next game is Saturday night, Raiders-Steelers. Both teams 6-8. Both teams really need this win. But I think that the Raiders are going to get this behind that strong Josh Jacobs run game. Steelers shut it down last week. With a better running back like Josh Jacobs this week and a better team in the Raiders, I don't think that's going to happen. So give me the Raiders, even though Kenny Pickett is coming back. Next game is Packers-Dolphins, and we've seen this before. They had a good win against, I believe, the Cowboys with kind of a rough and tumble run game. Then they get out-roughed by the Titans that Thursday night and just look awful, and I think that's what's going to happen again. The Dolphins, despite losing that game to the Bills last week, they look pretty good. They put up 29 points against, obviously, one of the league's top defenses. So give me the Dolphins to all but eliminate the Packers from the playoffs this week. Next game is maybe the two most disappointing teams in the league. Broncos at Rams, and this one is also kind of just a toss-up. You could pick whoever you want here. Rams didn't look great like I kind of expected them to last week. Broncos, they beat the Cardinals, but the Cardinals had Trace McSorley playing quarterback, which he did not look great. 7 of 15, 2 interceptions. So give me the Rams here. Even though they lost to the Packers last week, I'm going to predict that their stars play well. They still have Aaron Donald. They still have Jalen Ramsey. Somehow still losing games as well. But I think they slightly get back on track. Both teams really could even be trying to tank for better draft picks. I don't even know what's going to go on. But give me the Rams. Gut feeling. Next game is Bucs-Cardinals on Sunday Night Football. And normally, this is a pretty good game if the Cardinals have Kyler. They do not. Bucs should win if the Cardinals have Colt McCoy. They do not. Now the Cardinals are down to Trace McSorley, and that's not going to bode well for them. I think the Bucs should blow them out on Sunday Night Football here. Then Chargers-Colts on Monday night. Similar situation for the Colts. Nick Foles starting at quarterback. I would assume not the same Super Bowl winning quarterback that he once was. And they have Jonathan Taylor out. So Chargers should pick up, I think, a pretty easy win on Monday Night Football. Now for my lines this week, I'm going to take the Browns minus 2.5 at home against the Saints. Not much to cover, and as I said, I think Deshaun Watson gets back on track this week. Big win for the Browns, slight playoff hopes, and I think it'll be more than 2.5. Next one is going to be Titans minus 3 against the Texans. This feels a little bit disrespectful towards the Titans. They're going to win the AFC South, probably. Jags can make a push at that, but they're not the greatest division winners, obviously, so I can see where this line is coming from, but I don't think they should beat the Texans by any less than 3 points or really even 6 or 7. And my next line is Chargers minus 4.5 on Monday Night Football. Obviously, against the Colts, they're without Jonathan Taylor, they're without Matt Ryan, and that's just not going to go well for them. Benching Matt Ryan is probably just a move to get more guys playing time, and that normally does not go well for teams. So Chargers minus 4.5. And now for my starts, I'm going to start it off with a name that I'm probably going to get terribly wrong. Chigoziem Okonkwo. He is the tight end for the Tennessee Titans, and I picked him up a few weeks ago when Kyle Pitts got hurt. I've been juggling tight ends a little bit. I had Kmet, I had Njoku, he got hurt, Pitts got hurt. So now I'm on Okonkwo, and he's had 3 straight weeks of double-digit points. So if you need a tight end, pick him up, play him. He slots in pretty nicely. Next guy is Isaiah Pacheco. Just a nice matchup against not a great Seattle run defense, and I think you stick with them here. Kansas City, obviously a pass-first offense, but look for Pacheco to have a good game against the Seahawks. Next guy is Zonovan Knight, and Jets, obviously, with that run-first offense, contrary to the Chiefs, they are going to run the ball a ton, and it's freezing cold. Zach Wilson in freezing cold, I'm going to assume, is not going to be very good, but if that is true, then they're going to run the ball, and their first running back is Zonovan Knight. So I would start Zonovan Knight this week. He's going to get 15-plus carries, could even get into the 20s. Nice play if you need a flex. And now for my sits this week, I'm starting it with Brian Robinson, and didn't do much at home against the Giants this week. Now they're at the best run defense in the league, San Francisco, so I don't know how that's going to go for him. San Francisco should win this game, and a lot of times teams that lose the game, especially if they get down quickly, don't run the ball a lot. So have Brian Robinson on your bench. Next guy is Gabe Davis, and I drafted him in both my leagues. He's really just had a pretty rough year. He's not gotten like more than 4 receptions in any game except one or something, maybe 1, 2. And when he does get a lot of targets, he has good games, but he doesn't get a lot of targets a lot. And like a lot of other predictions I made, it's going to be freezing cold in Chicago. So Gabe Davis, obviously not the number 1 option in Buffalo. Have him on your bench. And my last sit is going to be Michael Pittman. They're without Matt Ryan, not because of an injury, but they're without Jonathan Taylor. And where's the offense going to come from? Nowhere. I don't think they're really going to have much offense this week. So because of that, sit Michael Pittman, and I would say really any other Colts players except maybe Zach Moss if you do need a flex play. That is all I have for this week. Let me know what takes you agree with. Let me know what you disagree with, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.